Peace, y'all. So, where to begin? I wanted to touch on some of the things some of y'all have been seeing in the astral, respectfully, of the privacy of some of our ancestors and ancestral consciousness, aka God consciousness, because ye are gods, right? So, the title of this video is Celebrate Your Divine Measure. Ooh, on a 44 mark. Interesting. We get what we get, right? We get what we get at any given time. And it's perfectly measured, even if it may seem imperfect. And for those that know, you know what that's about. When we try to push anything, we're pushing too far, resisting too hard, unless it's time for that, meaning it's divinely sanctioned, we can get met with an equal amount of pushback. And if we can't handle it, we may have to call for help. 144 mark. Some people suffer serious setbacks, not heeding those wisdoms. You could feel where your area is and where your area ain't. And if you stay humble, you keep it humble, you'll know the roads. You will know. You know what I'm saying? You'll know the roads. We've been breaking ancestral patterns that were meant to be broken by design because we knew. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you gotta fly a kite, test the weather. And as crazy as this may sound to some, to others, you know exactly what I'm saying. Because before you take flight, you want to test the weather. You dig? Before you expand your consciousness, you want to know what's around you. Before you go poking around in star system information, you want to know what's around you. And we had to make sure that our roots, that have established us here in any kind of way, could be healed, fortified, covered properly, so that our explorations and expansions don't disrupt those that, can't afford to be disrupted at any given time. This happens all the time, literally. But where we are placed in an earth frequency, things have to be carefully done. There has to be a measure so that we're able to continue to have our minds intact, reasonably enough intact that we don't freak other people out who aren't ready for certain information, who aren't ready for certain things. And that's where the fear stuff comes up and kind of nightmarish stuff. Some people, myself included, had to experience some things that took place in bits, in bits here and there, to the degree that we could take it without losing our minds or going into despair when we learned what some of our loved ones went through. Some of us had to sit in spaces and take some energetic abuses to release the ancestral pain, so the ancestors could go up to another plane. So all of this took place in this ascension process. And we've had guides We always have guidance. You follow divine guidance. You always have synchronicities. You always have people you're going to resonate with and people you won't. And then sometimes you resonate a little too intensely with someone. It's going to have to be time for y'all to step back from each other. You're going to have to separate a little bit so that it doesn't become obsessive. Because when things become obsessive, it's very difficult to contain the mind. It's very difficult to still have a human interface after that won't unnecessarily disrupt others and wake them up before they're ready. Because if they're not ready to wake up, it ain't time for them to wake up. And if it ain't time for them to wake up, it means there is a time for them to wake up. They may be like the next Messiah. They may be the next, lecturer bringing gems that just completely expand minds. And right now, they're hibernating. They need to rest. They went through traumas. They can't hear all that. It's triggering. Power moves in succession. So celebrate your divine measure. If you see someone's over here, with certain types of gifts, it ain't the time to be feeling like, well, how come I don't have any? Of course you do. How do you know you can't do that and better? You don't know right now because it ain't time for you to know right now. That part of you is probably hibernating. Maybe this person you're watching has some new flows or new patterns you might enjoy. And if you don't, turn away. You don't have to place your attention on anything you don't want to. Ever. But when we ask for things, when we straight up request certain things and we get answered and we don't like what we receive, all I can say is celebrate your divine measure. Take the time to cool off. Get under some water. Contain yourself with some water. Be gentle with yourself. Speak softly with yourself. Speak softly with others. Let others speak softly with you. Take that time to be gentle with you. How you treat yourself is how others are going to treat you. Take yourself up from under that pressure. You don't have to be all and everything at one moment. You don't have to be. You could do that later. Maybe you've already done that. So I'm going to pull a card from the Isis Oracle. Pull some solace for y'all. Anyone who's been struggling. Anyone who's like, what the hell have I been saying? Well, maybe stop watching some of them crazy movies. Or maybe, maybe some of them crazy movies you watched and were like, the hell did I just watch? Like, maybe you're just releasing it. Like, release dreams. Because we are the dreamer and the dreams. So you got to watch what kind of information you're putting in your head, lest it come up. 2 cards fell out. I didn't even have to pull a card. 2 cards fell out, fell to the ground. And I feel the vibe to choose another. I'm going to let Spirit, well, of course, I humbly accept Spirit's guidance on the order. One moment, I got to move the phone. In which I should read this. Oh, all right. Flower of Life is in the mental placement. Divine creativity and manifestation. Cartouche, divine names of power, is in the manifest physical material form area of the reading. This includes money, material possessions and things of that nature. Material belongings is probably a better way to put it. Things you're going to be with for a long time. Long-term stability, perhaps. The Brother in Darkness, overcoming negative energy with feminine power. Now, personally, I find the dark to be sacred. I enjoy it. That don't mean I like everybody's interpretation of dark. That's their battle. But this is in the soul lesson placement. So this is being able to master the dark, being able to close your eyes, and from what I'm seeing here, be in touch with your divine creativity and manifestation. Your divine creativity and manifestation. Bringing what you bring to the table. You know what I'm saying? This divine names of power right now is kind of cryptic and enigmatic for me. So I'm going to give it a moment because it's like, as rare as that can be, no collar pops intended, it's hard for me to read. Very mysterious energy, very ancient feeling. I'm going to just let it rest. And that's how you do it. You don't resist. If something doesn't want to be read at that time, it doesn't. You know what I'm saying? Hands off. You know what I'm saying? What I'm picking up in the Flower of Life area, very interesting for those who know the math. Props to Terrence Howard. He didn't get a whole lot of props for what he rolled out, but it be like that. Now, 300 years from now, he might he might be in like he might be required reading in science class. You know, that's how it works. People get slept on because it ain't time. People aren't ready for what that individual's bringing to the table. So, you know, it's always wise to watch who you're side-eyeing. It's always wise to watch who you're speaking on in a certain type of way, especially like they're if they're like on that human interface level and they're not quite awake and they're still dealing with inner conflicts and they're being ignorant. And yeah, well, you know what? We've all been ignorant. We've all done that. If we can control our own projections, we can make this experience of connectivity and unity while celebrating variations. We can help to make it a beautiful experience. You know, we don't have to keep dealing with broken links that have to go away for a while and come back and be reoriented and pass through veils and all of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, nobody really, I don't think, wants to discard anyone. But sometimes if like someone gets out of hand, they got to go off by themselves and be alone. But alone is just missing an L. Because it's all one, right? You know? So maybe that person tried to be everything in that, you know, moment, or tried to know everything in that moment. It was like, come on, bro, not in a human container. You know, maybe at some point when we've progressed as a species, we can do that on a certain type of level, macrocosm to microcosm. But there's a time for everything, even within ourselves. And sometimes you got to cool off. Maybe you got to go off in a space pod and just be dolo. And you can't hear the noise. You can't, you know what I'm saying? Can't be bothered. Too sensitive. Truly too sensitive. You might pop off until you release some of those haunts and traumas that maybe made you too sensitive, while the people who haunted and traumatized you are also being humbled. So interesting. And like I'm going to read this cartouche card, and there's like this gentle, energetic pushback. I don't know why it came out then, but no shade intended. Maybe by the end of this reading, I'll pick something up from it. This is like very rare for me. The Brother in Darkness Soul Lesson. There are a lot of brothers right now going through something I've experienced and can relate to. This massive unburdening, this crying like you straight from infancy, like straight up in an infancy consciousness, where you are crying and crying and crying, and there's so much fear. And the, you know, kind of the temptation to be drawn into sorrow, to go deeper into a vibration that's unbefitting of you. Sometimes the answer is to go up. Oftentimes, if you feel like that, go up. Find what's on a higher resonance. Find what's in harmony with you at any given time. Some things are for a season, and they do you the solids they can do you, and you do them solids in perhaps unseen ways if you feel like, well, I don't have anything to give. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, you're probably giving in an unseen way, while an aspect of you that can't be in a position of having to give out anymore, gets to have that still water experience, or that, something like a stasis experience. And at first it's like, you may not want it. You may feel like, you may have like all these energies. You've been dealing with the rise of suppressed divine energy, kundalini energy. It takes a little bit to become accustomed to the fact that you don't really have to hurt no more. You might stub your toe. There might be some moments. There might be some disappointments of whatever degree, depending on how you perceive it. But if you could celebrate your divine measure at that moment, you're getting exactly what you need, and you have exactly what you need to move forward with anything. You don't have to go any deeper than that if you don't feel like you can go deeper. And if you really feel like something's trying to push you deeper and it ain't right, you can call out to your ancestors and I can't go no deeper. Simple as that. And let them intervene if there's something else that's trying to pull you down and it feels way wrong. Because intuitively speaking, you know when something is not for you at any given moment. You know if you've possibly trespassed on a space or an area that wasn't a good idea. Something was cautioning you not to do that. You might be interfacing with the side of a person on a consciousness level that will pop off on you because you're trying to look behind the curtain, and that ain't your business. Behind the curtain, that might be where something very beloved to a being's heart, you know what I'm saying, is resting or in a state of repose. And to mess with that, you want to call on your ancestors, to help you correct that, to help you not get caught up in protective measures that might be surrounding the perimeter of a person's aura, because we are cosmic. We are not just earthbound. So curiosity, that whole curiosity killed the cat, that's a reference that I don't like to hear because I'm such a cat person. I'll be like, you didn't kill the cat. Cat got 9 lives and probably more than that. I'll be trying to find different ways to protect the cat. You know what I'm saying? Like, hands off the cat. Cats go to who feels right. You know what I mean? I'm like, save the cat. And there's actually a book. It's like a writing book called Save the Cat. And it talks about these different plots and hero's journey. It was one of my guidebooks to learn when I was, helping as a ghostwriter to make other people rich by writing the plots for their books. And in some cases, writing a few of their books. That got old quick, because underpaid, and that got old quick. But back from the future, it'll make you more solar. Props to them. Flower of Life, Cartouche, Brother in Darkness. Music is going to be soothing for you. Soul lesson stays. If the silence ain't working for you, find the music that is. Find the rhythms and the waves that remind you of the waters that you know from origin. That mama experience that this society at different times tried to rip from you or rip you from. definitely don't go for the synchronicities are just wild to me. But oh wow. Okay. It's like coming to me, but it's coming to me slow. And interfacing with doom. Extremely humbling experience. Something was said to me coming into the spring, or it might have been, I don't know, maybe it was spring already. I don't know, but it was wild because it was like the weather was like on and off, so like weird. And then we had snow at one point, and then there was like, it was like, I'm trying to remember if we had a number of snowstorms or how it was working, but there was like this, it almost seemed like it was overnight to my perception. I could have missed it. Maybe it had been at least been for a week or something. I don't know, but like there was this branch of some sort coming up out of the snow. Like it was such a message. You know what I'm saying? But it was around that time, and Spirit, one of my beloved. I'm thinking of Prince, dearly beloved. Oh my God, what song was that? Yeah, maybe that's something for me to play later. Anyways, I can't right now think of the title. But one of my beloved guardians will sometimes be an intermediary if I'm too in awe of whomever is, available for counsel or has a message for me, or, And that was one of those times. And, I wasn't ready, because I'm a fan of Metal Fingers. I'm a fan. Metal Fingers, Metal Face, you know what I'm saying? And well, anyways, back to the quote. One of the things that was said was if you focus, I have it written down somewhere to give it exactly. But if you focus on the surface, you're an open book. I just thought that was so deep. I thought that was so deep. And I went on to have experiences that made it clear to me even more so what that meant. Like, I got it. Like, from the rip. I got it. But the depths of that statement, whoo! When we're too concerned with our face, when we're too concerned with how we're presenting ourselves, when we're too concerned about everybody else's opinions, we can fall, I'll just, loosely say, victim, or at least have the experience of falling victim, or the perception of falling victim to the projections of others. And that's not great, because while there can be some nonsense trying to work on you, what's going on, you know what I'm saying, with those that you're connected to, while a diversion's being run on you, what's going on with your lines? Unless it's like, I would have to say, unless you have like it's like a spiritual counselor, what have you, and they're like, listen, you need some healing, and you're doing it shamanically, and you're receiving instructions on how to keep yourself cool, how to ground yourself, how to expand but not to go too far, while things are cleared out, while different, there could be ancestral curses. You know what I'm saying? People love to talk about Egypt. You know what I'm saying? I talk about Chem specifically for a reason, because Egypt is later. It's a later thing. It's a different consciousness from my experience, and a different historical situations that came along with it, and patterns that some foolishly may attempt to, may have, I don't know, why would I say may have when I feel like I know from what I've experienced and seen, but like have tried to, start another cycle of, We don't really need cycles of enslavement. We don't. For those who know and those who are seeking to know thyself. And I think that's what Cartouche is. I think that's why it's like a different energy. It's peaceful, but it's not speaking to me, but it's staying there. So I think those things we don't want to know about ourselves, those things, and it doesn't always have to be bad. Doesn't always have to, You know what I'm saying? Unless you're bad like Michael, that's different. It doesn't have to be bad. You know what I'm saying? In the sense that's thrown around to try to, incorrectly demonize or attempt to create some false realm of horrors, that with a snap of a finger of someone with a higher resonance can just go away. And you don't want to be caught up in that type of thing. Give people headaches, I would think, if they're connected to it. But, Cartouche, divine names of power. Those who've been afraid to know their power, and I think a lot of empaths know that life. Well, if you're not ready, why bother? Why bother that aspect of you? Let it rest. Sure, it has a time for revealing and a clever way to do it so that no one's unnecessarily disrupted. So when we have like we got a communal experience, right? There doesn't have to be a situation where someone has been forcibly starved. So when they come to the table and they start eating everything, instead trying to eat off other plates and stuff like that, now they look like the villain. But who forcibly starved them so they'd look like the villain? And I think those are the questions for those who really want to probe that could be asked. Who who abused the villain? What they take from the villain? What needs to be given back? So there's a whole series of wavelengths, thoughts, and what have you that get organized on a divine level. And there were people trying to go into ancient places and take things and move things that were not supposed to be taken or moved, and yet we knew that would happen. So perhaps what they took wasn't what they thought they took. I think I should leave it there. I feel like I should. And I'm going to listen to my feeling, because at the end of the day, your intuition is going to tell you at any given time what your divine measure is. And that can fluctuate. It can change. That's why people do readings, or people like to do dream interpretation, or, And then sometimes you want to get away from all that. You don't want to hear another thing about what might happen or what is happening. You just want to be like, not like, how about I be the one who say what's happening? And so you go into that more so conscious interface of mind, and you go out and you seek an adventure in the world. And it could be a mild adventure, like I'm going to try a different flavor of coffee today. And see how that makes me feel. And I'll take it from there. And I think for those who feel like overexhausted, overexpanded, that's another thing to do. And then get to work. Get to work on what your heart considers a labor of love at that moment. You ain't got to work on other people's projects if you don't enjoy it, and it's making you feel drained, and it's making you fight with your husband or your wife, or side-eye your children. Think. Let the wavelengths trace it back to who put you in that position. Oh, your family's beefing? Well, what happened there? In some cases, some people played around in magics they should have left alone, because while they were busy conjuring this or conjuring that, they didn't know what other rituals that energy was connected to. Ooh, and now they got some things to contend with. And if they fall to fear and they serve something that says, well, you must now because, you ate from this table, and there we go again with that, right? That sense of obligation that does not align with the heart. Your heart always knows. You don't have to stay stuck in something because you were told you absolutely must, or this is who you are. If it doesn't resonate with your heart, even if it seemed to resonate before, and probably if it resonated before, there might have been some fear consciousness attached to it. But if something is right, really right for you, really, really right for you, it's going to stay right in the ways that count. As long as you're coming correct. As long as you are also in, that right alignment. So I think I'm going to close out there. I hope this was helpful, y'all. I know this was different and all over the place, but I'm far less frightened, terrified of public speaking than I was before. Right? That used to scare me. But obviously, because in my ancestral line, speaking the truth was met with force and violence whenever that happened. And it was a strong enough, brutal response or reaction to truth that seems to have reverberated through the family lines. And empaths, D's, we didn't know what the hell was going on. We were just being juiced and tossed around. But that's changed. So it's always advisable to stay humble and be aware of the ledge if you're not ready to fly. Thank you for tuning in. Peace.